Hello everyone, I'm continuing my look at the recent Iron Man Marvel Legends wave from Hasbro, and today I'm picking up with one of the villains of this set, which is Count Nefaria. So let's not waste any time, let's kick off by taking a look at this packaging. And it is pretty much identical packaging to what we saw with the Iron Man Model 01. It's retro packaging, it is harking back to the 1990s with the Toy Biz line that associated with the Iron Man animated series of the 90s, which, you know, I'm a big fan of. I love this card art, I think it's absolutely fantastic that we have it now, sort of just expanded. It's a little bit larger than it was back in the day, but it's pretty faithful to what we got all those years ago. So this is really, really good. The only criticism I would have of this card art is that it's going to be very similar with every single release as we see with the other figures in this wave, whereas with the Spider-Man the animated series line, they would actually be a little bit individual, a little bit different to each other, because they would have a billboard with a unique character illustration on it. Sadly, that doesn't appear here in the Iron Man line, so every card is pretty much identical, but hey, it's a great looking card, a fantastic image of Iron Man here. It's colourful, it's bright, and it's got that fantastic chunky Iron Man logo. I'm sold, I love it. The reverse of the card is a little bit more bland, there's a bit more small print, there's not really an awful lot going on here. Back in the day, the Toy Biz line would actually show off the other figures in the wave. They haven't opted for that for some reason, I'm not quite sure why. Instead we have this rather large image of the diagram of the figure itself taking up centre stage, which is kind of a bit of a waste of space, I think, to be honest, but hey, now this is quite a cool release because it does mark the debut of Count Nefaria in the Marvel Legends line. Unbelievably, we've never had this figure before. I say unbelievably, perhaps it's a little bit to be expected because he is a minor villain, but he has shown up a good number of times across the years. Now, I don't tend to think of him as an Iron Man villain per se, so it's kind of unusual he's ended up here. I tend to think of him much more as a Avengers kind of villain, but nevertheless, it's great to have him in the collection at long last. Now, if we start off by taking a look at this head sculpt, I think they've done a really good job. Of course, this is a brand new sculpt, and I think they've done a nice job here in terms of the expression on the face. He definitely looks villainous, and I think the paint apps are really well applied here, differentiating between skin tone and some of those darker washes there, and of course, the grey at the temple, which looks pretty cool. Now, in terms of the body, clearly they've recycled one of the many bodies they've used many times before. There's not an awful lot that's new here except for the cape, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment, but for the most part these details have been painted in and there's not an awful lot original to talk about here. Now, in terms of the cape, yes, this is a brand new piece. It is sculpted into one mold though, which is very unfortunate, so it's not really flexible, it's not posable at all, and there's really nothing going on in the way of paint apps. The other thing is, it kind of sticks into him via a peg on the back, and because it's diagonal, it doesn't really fit in that snugly, and it has a tendency to want to pop out all the time. And I'll be totally honest with you, this annoys the hell out of me. And yeah, if we look at the legs and the feet, he stands with no issues whatsoever. He's got some pretty good balance, which is great as you'd expect from this mold. But you can kind of see there how the detail is really just painted on, and it, you know, it doesn't look the best. Okay, so articulation wise, he does have a ball joint at the top of the neck, so his head can spin all the way around and it can lean left and right at a pretty healthy distance. Of course, there is a hinge there that will allow the head to lift up and down a really healthy distance, which is fantastic. He's got that wonderful butterfly wing joint, even if the colour is a little bit off, which will allow the arm to move forwards and backwards, as well as complementing that ball joint there, allowing the arm to lift up and out. There's a complementary bicep swivel, a double joint at the elbow, and the standard peg at the wrist there, allowing the hand to rotate all the way around and hinge forwards and backwards. There's a straight swivel at the waist, so he can move from side to side, and then we have the ab crunch in the centre of the abdomen there, allowing him to bend forwards and backwards a pretty good distance either direction. Now, he's got ball joints in the hips, so of course the legs will kick out to the side. There's the thigh swivel at the top of the leg there. The legs will kick forwards, they'll kick backwards, and there's another swivel this time at the top of the boot cut there as well, so that lower leg can move from side to side. Before finally we have the ankle pivot, which will allow the foot to hinge forwards and backwards, but rock from side to side. In terms of accessories, he comes with an additional pair of open hands, and that's it, nothing else. I guess I wouldn't expect too much more from Count Nefaria, to be honest, but it does feel a little lightweight, which is kind of disappointing, and combined with that cape issue, I'm only going to give it 3 stars. It's not a terrible figure. It's using a really great body mold, and to be honest, that's what saves this figure and elevates it. Plus, it's also the debut of this character, so I am glad to have a unique new character in the Marvel Legends line. But there are some serious shortcomings, and yeah, I don't like these extra bits and pieces. I think we kind of moved beyond that. If we look at the belt, it just looks a little bit sloppy, and yeah, that cape, really frustrating. and the lack of paint washes and paint apps over this figure to draw out some detail makes it feel a little bit stark and a little bit cheap in places, and it's just, yeah, there's something about it that is just frustrating to pose because of the cape, and yeah, I'm underwhelmed and disappointed by this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving the video a like. That kind of thing really does help the channel out, and it allows me to keep making more content. And if you're interested in seeing more content, remember to hit subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos coming soon.